Good morning. I will read the daily news summaries by topic. Each topic is presented in 3 to 4 clear sentences in English. Topic 1. A sharp escalation in the U.S.-Iran conflict has disrupted shipping near Kharg Island and across the Persian Gulf, pushing crude above $100 a barrel and triggering what analysts call the biggest oil supply shock in history. Kharg is central to Iranian exports. About 90% of the country's outbound oil passes through its loading, storage, and pipeline complexes, making any threat there strategically critical, but also risky to address with ground forces. With roughly 15 million barrels per day transiting the Strait of Hormuz, about 20% of global consumption effectively blocked, some observers compare the scale to twice the Suez shock of 1956. Nearby producers have cut output or declared shut-ins as storage fills and safety concerns mount. Financial markets have reacted violently, Brent spiking near $190.50, aviation fuel surging, equities tumbling, treasury yields and gold moving sharply, and prediction markets and regulatory debates have flared over war-related betting and insider trading concerns. Topic 2. The energy shock is roiling markets. Global equities and bond markets plunged, Wall Street slid with major indices down and the Dow falling by hundreds of points, while bond yields jumped on sell-offs. Inflation expectations and central bank rate hike bets have risen as markets pull forward or reprice the likelihood of further rate increases in Europe and elsewhere, and many had to back away from earlier rate cut expectations. Airlines and travel stocks were hit hard, airfares surged, and shippers immediately imposed emergency fuel surcharges on affected routes. Commentators warn that if the conflict expands, supply risks could deepen and revive stagflation fears. International coordination on mitigation, such as strategic releases, has been discussed but remains limited, so short-term volatility and downside growth risks persist. Topic 3. Geopolitical fallout has intensified. The U.S. ordered non-essential staff out of its embassy in Riyadh, citing missile, drone, and terrorist threats linked to the conflict, marking the first such withdrawal since the war began and raising regional tensions. Israeli strikes on Iranian infrastructure and Iranian attacks on oil facilities and shipping have driven global crude above $110, while Gulf producers including the UAE, Kuwait, and Iraq announced production cuts, worsening supply concerns. The U.S. says it aims to restore safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz by degrading Iran's maritime threat capabilities. Iran has named Mojtaba Khamenei as a new supreme leader figure, seen as a hardening of the regime, and allied and partner states are moving military support, defensive systems, and diplomatic efforts, with China sending mediation envoys as part of broader multilateral responses. Topic 4. G7 leaders have so far chosen not to jointly tap strategic petroleum reserves, a stance that could keep fuel and inflation pressures elevated for longer. IEA members collectively hold about 1.2 billion barrels of reserves, and the U.S. reportedly proposed a 300 to 400 million barrel release, about 25 to 35% of its reserve, but only 3 countries so far back a release and full G7 consensus is lacking. If reserves remain largely untapped, high energy prices are likely to persist, transmitting into higher transportation and production costs, elevated consumer prices, and squeezed household real incomes. That sustained energy shock would complicate central banks' fight against inflation, pressure corporate margins, and increase economic volatility across import-dependent regions. Topic 5. The Justice Department reached a surprise settlement with Live Nation and Ticketmaster just before a Manhattan antitrust trial, avoiding a mandatory breakup of the company. Under the proposed deal, venues would no longer be forced into Ticketmaster exclusivity. Live Nation must sell 13 outdoor amphitheaters, with potential additional divestitures, and the company would pay a